So yes, did you get the announcement that we're recording?
Yep.
This is our third live session, and I'm very happy to see you all here because you probably had just tons of meetings. I mean, it was back to back for me from 9 o'clock till about 2, and then I just passed out. Just flat out decided to get warm and pass out for a little bit. And so that's why apologies. I still have three more lessons to grade of yours. I think most of the folks here, maybe Alex, I didn't quite get to yours. Just looking at the last names. Yeah, and Bridget, yours is probably also. So the three that I still have to do are probably yours. So apologies. But I hope to do them before the end of today, right? So I'm going to share my screen with you here, and we'll get into our course. And thank you. I was up yesterday around 6 o'clock just checking and scanning to make sure that there wasn't anyone. And I didn't get a notification. So I think that everyone remembered that it was Service Day, MLK Day, right? And we did have a lot of things to, I still had a lot of meetings. So there really isn't a holiday or vacation for us, is there? So
Right.
I want to just go ahead and show you that for our second session that the recording is there in case anyone missed that second live session and wants to come back to it, you can review it. And then you're definitely welcome to ask questions in the inbox or even in the chat if there was something that came up. Through week 2, I did make, let's see, where was that? Tools. Technology tools for engagement. I didn't realize that the last tab, the Canvas Studio tab, was empty. So little things like that, right? That happen in our real courses. And so I went in and I put in, these were two professional development workshop trainings that I gave in the fall. And so I just put these in here. If they don't make sense in terms of Canvas Studio and YouTube captioning to Canvas Studio, I'm happy to answer questions on that. So those were the two major big things that I noticed might have been missing there. In terms of today, after our meeting, I'll try to curate our recording, caption it, and then place it in a page right under this and any other new things that come up. So we do have a lot that we need to do, and I hope that maybe we can get through it so that we can have time for a Q&A. So again, welcome everyone. I hope you're doing great. I hope that this is really the beginning of the semester for us in a lot of ways because we have all of these department meetings and setups. Yesterday I sent out my pre-course contact welcome letter to two of my classes, which made me realize that I have a lot more of those to set up and send out. And so I'm just gonna have to buckle down, right? And just realize that the vacation is over, if there ever was one. I'm going to try to walk you through module 3, and that includes a discussion on flipped classrooms and hybrid schedules. We will try to have breakout groups for and pass the mic for hybrid special topics. And then also maybe a quick discussion on the final project because I know many of you are already preparing for that. All right, so let me go ahead and see if I can just hit next on this. All right, I'm going to move us to the top here. All right, so our objectives is to make sure that when we welcome students to a hybrid learning experience that we set them up for success. And that can easily be done with the pre-course contact welcome letter or welcome email. Sometimes we will send out a heads up welcome email just explaining, just in case they didn't catch on that it's a hybrid course, that there will be in-class meetings and then there will be a full Canvas layout for them. Also, what we can do in that welcome email or letter is let them know if our course is zero textbook cost or OER, or if they're going to have to purchase a book. In my courses for poli-sci, they have to purchase a $75 book in the summer. So I try to hold on to the old editions as much as I can, but eventually we just have to talk about January 6th. right? So so eventually we have to update the poli sci books. I don't really have a choice on that one. But it does help students know that hey, you're gonna have to go and get a book. And if you're teaching a 16-week course and you have 16 chapters, they pretty much are quizzed on chapter one the very first week, right? So there are little things like that that it's nice to go ahead and give them a little heads up on. What other thing we're going to review, and here I think we'll do the breakouts. Equity minded language when we are trying to connect with our students. Just because a lot of times in written information, our tone is interpreted by the reader, and it does help. It helps to write and reply with a smile, right? Because I don't know how that goes through. I mean, there's the same words, but maybe we put commas in the different places or something like that. Now, that's the beauty of having a recorded video, even if it's 1 minute, welcome, because then the tone is not up for interpretation. They can see your beautiful faces, the smiles, the warmth kind of goes through the video somehow. And so, but we can't all make videos. I mean, sometimes we're really pressed for time, and sometimes we recycle. We recycle old welcome letters and then just put a happier spin on them, right? An update. So let me see. I think there's a question in the chat. Let me see. Oh, yes, it is. Absolutely. It is a mindset. And so it does help to do that. I will flat out turn off my computer, walk around the block, and then come back and reply to an email that I find, troubling or that I might not come off quite nicely. And I do ask my children to come and read what I've replied without giving them any context to see what their interpretation is. My children, they're almost 13 and 15. They'll say, "Mom, you sound really mean." Then I know I need to revamp that. So it does help to have an extra set of eyes on our work. We do have our activity this week for a welcome video or some sort of uh, this is how we're going to deal with our hybrid course. So it can be short, sweet. Normally, videos are supposed to be no more than 4 to 5 minutes. That's kind of the rule. But you can make it shorter than that if you want. If you want to just explain, hey, a reminder, we're going to meet Mondays and Wednesdays in this classroom, and the rest of the work will be done in Canvas or something. Just really a nice way to remind students. We also have another level up, and so I just want to remind you all that the level ups are set up so that it's a page that you can edit and you can include your information in there and your comments, but they're not linked to any assignment, so they're not linked to points. So that could be a little bit confusing. I do go back in later on and then I write in with grades. I have a notes column, and so in the notes column is where I make note of all the folks who have participated in the different levels up. And I'll go back and double check that in case some were added later. And then we're going to use Padlet as a fun tech. I just find myself all of a sudden using it a lot more. I didn't know I was going to have to host a town hall meeting for CCC on distance education, and it was kind of sprung on me. And so I was amazed that I could just quickly, within about 5 minutes, whip together a Padlet that made sense and then have the meeting and then have us all participate, and it worked out really well. So we're going to use that tech, and I think that you might like it. You don't have to use it all the time, but sometimes every blue moon it's nice to shake up things a little bit. All right. So, how do we get students ready for hybrid learning? There are a couple of key things that we should have here. And these also align with a lot of the equity rubric that we use at the sister colleges. We don't all use the same equity rubric, but they're all based off of the Peralta online equity rubric. So, for example, when we have here technology needs, it's important to let students know if apologies. You cannot complete Political Science 125 by using your cell phone. You will need to have Chrome. You will need to write an 8 to 10 page research paper. And, it's just so I know it sounds horrible, but along with that is the library is letting students borrow these, Chromebooks, or here's the form that you need to fill out in order to be able to borrow a hotspot. So that sort of information helps students, right, to know before they actually begin the class, that they will need to be on Canvas almost every day. The dates, so these dates can be when the course begins officially. I mentioned that yesterday I sent out welcome letters and I opened my course for my students, so that I went and fidget with the settings so that my students, if they want, can get a sneak peek into the course, so they can see my syllabus in the syllabus tool, which I've made public and making it therefore a liquid syllabus. That way they can take a look at it. If they think it's harsh, it's better for them to know now, right? And then that way they can leave a spot for someone else. Now, in pandemic times, maybe it's not a good, move for me, because maybe students are like, sounds hard. Maybe I'll just drop it and then I'll be under enrolled. Normally, it's a good publicity tool, the liquid syllabus. Um, what other things? So that we cannot require students to participate in any way until the official first day of class. But I have found that many students like to go in there and poke around and take a look at the welcome module, take a look at the first week content module, to get a feel for the rhythm of the course. And I'm always happy to answer emails or inbox messages. Most of the students still respect that it's sort of a vacation, and so they don't really ask questions unless it's something really, really important, like I'm still in Thailand and I'll be there until the second week of class. So that's when they reach out, when they're afraid that maybe the Wi-Fi is not going to be able to sustain them during the first week, and they don't want to be dropped. So I always encourage that kind of communication. The expectations in terms of the learning, both learning modalities, we've talked about the hybrid loop and how it brings in everything together like an envelope, right? What happens online prepares them for then the in classroom activity and then gets wrapped up back online in Canvas. And so that we can give them as much expectation as possible. If we know for sure we're meeting Mondays and Wednesdays, we can give them that concrete information, which also should already be in the schedule of classes. But also we can tell them, expect to be in Canvas for about 5 hours, expect to do offline reading and research for about 2 hours a week, if we know that. Just to give them a more or less, maybe a range. And it won't be the same for everyone. But when I used to teach these winter intercession courses for students, they were 4 weeks. Now I think they've changed them to be 3. That sounds crazy making to me. But for 4 weeks, it meant my telling them this is about a 25-hour a week commitment. you know, you're pretty much reading a chapter a day and being quizzed on it. And so it's just a courtesy to let them know that because it's in a short period doesn't mean that it's not the same amount of work. It's probably even more work for them. And so that's how we can help them out. Participation requirements. If they're required to come on campus, then definitely letting them know. If the in on campus meetings are mainly for students who might need a little bit more help in foundational information, then it's good to let them know as well. For my poli sci classes, all my in class meetings were required. But there was a way for me to be able to say, well, thanks for writing. I know that you're sick. I'd rather you not come to class if you're ill. For example, we might get those emails. This is how you can prepare. Please go into people, reach out to a classmate, ask them to share their notes of our in class activity. Because right now we're not recording our in class activity, right? And a lot of faculty have mentioned that they really don't want to come to class if any student is ill, and that it would be a sort of a waste of time in many ways to drive 2.5 hours to your campus to then meet with only 2 students if we have made that an optional meeting. I'm here, but it's an optional meeting, right? Then you really might drive all the way to your campus to find only two people show up. So things like that, it's best to just keep them absolutely clear with students. What other thing? How much online training will your students need to have? So I like to use, I believe it's called Quest. See, sometimes I mix up my colleges, but I'll go and double check because there is a mini course that students can take so that they can realize what is going to be entailed in being in an online class, for example. And it also has some Canvas training. So some of the Canvas training that we can give them can be by using the Canvas guides for students. And we can place those in just in time places. So if they're going to participate in a discussion, we can provide a just in time resource, which is the Canvas guide to discussions, right within the discussion that we're asking them to participate in, or how to upload an assignment, for example. And then, of course, the welcome letter, which you all probably already have. And so it's just a good idea to take a look at it again and see if we're using equity and if we've included language that indicates that it's a hybrid course, right? Because the other day, just yesterday, the welcome letter I noticed had something like "Have a happy summer" or something like that. So it was really misplaced, and I edited it, but I don't know. I must have left that in there. Maybe because I was dreaming of summer already, which is really sad. But here, under this, you have a lot more explanation in terms of technology needs, clarity of dates, the expectation, the being intrusive, and which is really important. And the other day I said being invasive, and someone said, "Wait a second, invasive? Isn't that a medical procedure?" I'm like, "Oh my goodness, you're right. Yes, be intrusive." And so that means that we do, in many ways, have to have our crystal ball and a little bit of ESP to think, okay, who might be struggling out there? Someone who hasn't participated in the simplest of discussions might have a tech issue, or maybe there's something else going on. And so it is definitely good to reach out to students. One of the main ways we can do that is to go to grades, go to an assignment, and we can message students who and send out a friendly reminder. Good morning, this assignment's coming up. Here are a couple of tips, right? And then that way students might get the notification, depending how they set those, and remember to come in and participate. So it might just be that they have a lot going on. Let's see. And then what does attendance look like in a hybrid modality? That's completely up to you. It did come up in training, and I'll mention it again, that we cannot, once the course has begun, send out like, "Oh, and we're going to meet at the zoo this Friday." It has to be in the schedule of classes in order for it to be a required um, activity anywhere else. So if synchronous meetings, they have to be, so we can't be spontaneous with those things. So there is forethought in it. You can be spontaneous with drop-in office hours, for example, or meeting at a cafe. Those things you can if they're optional and if there aren't any points whatsoever attached to them, not even as extra credit. And so that was a good 20 minutes of back and forth mini fighting over, well, it's extra credit, it doesn't matter. It's equitable. Well, it's not really equitable if somebody is quarantined and cannot leave their house to come and join you at a cafe, for example. All right, so student training. Again, there's a little bit more explanation on that, and then the welcome letter. So I'm going to pause right now. You see at the bottom the B1 for pre-course contact and the syllabus tool. In case, as I was mentioning those things, they didn't sound quite like the normal stuff that we've been talking about in terms of, say, a liquid syllabus or what pre-contact means. So I'm going to stop share just so that I can see you all and see if anyone has a question at this point or a comment. All right, so let me take a look. I don't think I can see everybody on one tiny screen right now. So I know for sure that maybe I'm missing somebody. Raising your hand does put you at the top of the row, which helps me see you. Okay, sounds like I can move forward. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And we're going to hit next. All right, so the course syllabus. You already know that there are a couple of things that should be on our syllabi. I love the days when my syllabus was a one pager. That hasn't happened in almost 17 years, maybe, because there are more and more information that we need to include. Sometimes we do feel a little annoyed that now we're setting up a whole new section. I think the only time I'm annoyed is where now I have to promote, promote the department in some other way. And I'm like, really? Can't we just send out like a special announcement promoting all the classes, in the department? But so my page, if I were to print out my syllabus easily, it's an 8 pager now. And so that's not the way I would like it to be because that's too long for me. And I don't think I would read it as a student. So that presents a challenge. But there are things, if you've taken the BOI, that you already know to set up in terms of your syllabus. The only difference would be that we do need to make sure that the hybrid modality is very specific in the language. And so you can see here that most of these things are the regular things that we would include in our syllabi. All right, so updating, there's some examples here of the hybrid format and of the course policies, and then post your syllabus. So I mentioned using the syllabus tool. It really does help. And I wish I'd left them up because I had some other ones. So I'm going to start to put this in to see if it starts to move. My computer's so slow. So here we are. So that we do want to be able to be equitable and inclusive in our teaching. And so you'll see that there's some links here on the syllabus. Let's see here. So yes, equitable languages, right? So sometimes and why is it? It's not that we're trying to be harsh, but we've had too many students asking us for extensions past the date of our course. And so a lot of times, I think I'm guilty of that as well. I would have said absolutely no extensions. Plan ahead. And so the thing is that yes, I still don't want to give extensions for something that goes past the course date, but there are kinder ways that I could say that, right? And so now I find myself saying, I'm happy to give you extension up until week 15. But then I tell them why. I say the reason is that we now have a quicker turnaround to post grades. And yeah, I want to be fair in reading your final research paper. I don't want to feel rushed because that will put me in a different state of mind as I'm reading and grading your work. So that I think that our very adult students understand what it means to be pressured to complete something in a short amount of time and then provide results, post grades, for example. And so sometimes sharing a little explanation helps. Oftentimes that's information we share on a one-on-one basis, in terms of someone asking us for an extension that just doesn't fit within the realm of the course and isn't always something that we post, in our syllabus. Everyone gets an extension no matter what. We probably wouldn't do that because then we wouldn't get any work turned in until week 15. So that's our fear. So I think that when our language is a little bit more harsh, it just stems out of our own fear of being pressed for time. So we always start with kindness and respect, type with a smile, and we want to make sure that we're always talking about things that are opportunities instead of gaps. The assumption that all of our students at the community colleges are deficient in some way is, well, it's very negative. It's pejorative, right? So we already understand that. We really have no idea why students decide to take a class or classes at a community college. We have no idea. We really don't know what their backgrounds are, and so we should always go in with a lot of kindness and understanding and let them tell us what it is to inform us. So right here, you have examples, right? So of things in highlights and, in red text, which we shouldn't use. It says, if you have a Canvas issue in all caps, right? email Canvas first, not me. Well, that's just not friendly at all, right? So we can see that. But I think that language like that does stem out of our just, sometimes it's just flat out exhaustion. So I spent a couple of days with a colleague of mine, and I was helping her with her poker course. It's a long story. But this is what she would do right before opening her Canvas email. I'm not lying. She would do this. Oh, please God. Oh, please God. Oh, please God. And the thing is that that's exactly how I feel. But I haven't done that yet. But I totally understand that having a little mantra and maybe prayer before we go in to see what has happened. And this was right after posting grades. And I know exactly what she was feeling. She was concerned that there would be 20 messages from students who didn't like how they were scored in the last assignment or their final grade, right? And so that a lot of times it does help to be clear but kind, right? I think that also we want students to mimic back, right? So they learn from us. If we're kind with them and we use kind words, they mimic that back with us as well, so then they are no longer, hey, please upload, please unlock the module. So, or please let me into the module. Sometimes they don't even use please, I'll be honest with you. So that it is a teachable moment for them. And then we have, of course, here some extended learning in terms of communicating with an equity lens and equity language and guide. Let me go over here to, we have the examples of hybrid course policies that can help. In case you're wondering, okay, what's the difference, right? I know how to teach online and I know how to teach in my classroom. What policies could possibly come up that weren't in one modality or another? And so these will help you, I think, when you're thinking about that. Positive participation or attendance, for example, because we can't grade solely on attendance, but we can grade on in-class positive participation. And so it's just, I know it's like a loophole, right? But it does help, especially if we're going to assign some sort of points for in the classroom activity, that we can do that. And we would set up an assignment and we would have a rubric, right? Participated in the classroom with the activity, right? Helped peers with the group work or whatever it is. So we can have um, a rubric that's attached to that as well. Let's see. All right. So we have our hybrid welcome and the welcome letter. So these are some key like check off lists that you can have here in terms of your own syllabus. The welcome video also, a little quick checklist. And then again here, 2 to 3 minutes if you can. As you can tell, I'm really verbose, so it's really tough to keep mine under the 5 minute mark. I really try, and sometimes I have to chunk it out. And I'm like, okay, this is not working. I have so much stuff to say that it's taking me 15 minutes to say it. So then chunk that out into 3 5 minute segments, right? And it helps me too because I blunder a lot when I speak and I don't like editing too much afterwards. So it helps me to just set up those three chunked sessions, recordings. All right, so we're at our level up for deficit-minded equity. And so this is where we're going to go ahead and get into groups. And we have 9 folks, so what, maybe 3 groups of 3 each. And what I want us to do is to go in and see what is not quite right. Attendance is mandatory. And then as a group of 3, try to go in and find a way to communicate this same language in a more happy, friendly tone. So, are we, any questions? Are we good? Do you know how to get, let me send you, actually, I'll put this in chat so you can just jump directly to this page. You should be able to edit it because we set it up. Let me double check before I tell you lies. Let me move that. I believe we set this up, yes, so that students and teachers can edit. Okay. All right, so all I'm going to do is see if I can actually access my breakout rooms, which I need to change my glasses clearly. So 3 rooms, it's just going to be automatic, so I'm going to be a little dictatorial. The 3 breakout rooms will have the exact same thing. And it's as a team, just come into this form here and try to see if you can edit this language so that it makes a little bit more sense. And why don't we do this? We'll make the first one group one, second group two, third group three, and on. So I'll go in and probably put just a number to make sure that it's clear so that we're not all jumping into the same, trying to edit the same language. Okay, and we're going to use the second column, right? So we have
Right.
not friendly way and then the friendly way. Yes, any questions? Okay. So let me do that as I promised here. Let's see if I can go in here and edit that. Let me see. So what did I say here? Okay. All right. Hi.
Hello. Hello.
I hope you all had a good session. Yes.
We did. We lost one of our group members. I think is
Oh,
in.
I think that I had to relocate.
Oh,
Yep, just relocated
Dictator
as
Monica
well.
here. I
oh,
hope John wasn't in the middle of a word or an
he was about to
Mhm,
epiphany.
say, about to say
I was.
You were in the middle of an epiphany. I'm so sorry,
yeah.
John. Yes,
Oh,
so I hope that you enjoyed being able to have time, the very small groups. I mean, some of you were three, some of you were two, to be able to take a look at language. And I hope this means that when we go back to our own syllabi, and for me as well, I mean, I think what happens is that I realize that some students are having issue with something, and I go back to the syllabus to then populate for the future semester, reminding myself that I need to remind them to check grades or but then when I'm doing it, I'm doing it out of frustration. So what happens is that I edit it, instead of it being kinder, it becomes a little bit more strict or direct, or, there's even like a frustrating tone there. So I can see that you went ahead, and now this is a challenge in case you want to use this as a tool in your own breakout sessions in class. Just that Canvas isn't fabulous at having too many people in there editing. I don't know if you noticed that sometimes you would write something and all of a sudden it wasn't there anymore. Did that happen to any of you? No? We have had sessions where many of us of the distance education committee share the same course and we do trainings. And so we've noticed that if someone hasn't wrapped up their training and we're in the same course trying to start our training, that sometimes we can't do simple things like access a page, right? And so what we found that we do is we text each other. I'm like, hey, did you wrap up your training? Because I'm trying to get into Canvas. And so that might happen. I don't know if any of you experience that.
Wait.
Oh, and it's gone. Oh no, Bridget. So I'm sorry. Okay, if you can retype that, that'd be great. And that's a second thing. Have you ever found that you're not the genius you were at the first posting of something? I can't tell you how many times in discussions I've just been in there an hour typing in examples and links and everything. And then I have heavy fingers and a trackpad. So if I accidentally let my finger slide across the pad, it moves my screen over. And in Canvas, that means I can't retrieve it. And so then I just want to pull out my hair. And sometimes I do. So one of the recommendations I give my students as well is to type things out and say Word,
Yeah.
then they can edit there and then they can copy and paste it into the actual discussion. And that way they don't lose anything. So even now, like I'm not moving it, but I don't know if you saw it move a little bit. Right, so this is great. So definitely come back to this if you have time, if you feel inspired. We really appreciate building this library. So let me go into next. So right now we're going to try to see if we can work out the tech. The tech, whew, there's so much tech. You've probably already discovered that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here on this visit Padlet directly to see if it opens up. I hope it does. And I'm going to go ahead and give you that. Yes, everything in Word first, right, Nicole? All right, so here is that link to this Padlet here. And what we want to see if you can do is you probably already use some tech that has worked really well for you that you know that your students love. For me, one of the tech things that I have used is a tech that's called Pixton. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that little plus edit, and I'm going to title it, oops, wrong place, Pixton. And I'm going to see if I can actually find that link for that. Maybe not, but pixton.com. Let's see if he'll find it for me. Yep, it did. So let me go ahead and include that if it'll let me. Let me see, I have to move stuff around and publish it. And so that's a tech tool that I am happy to share with you. I do pay for the subscription. I don't know if I should continue doing that. It's a little spendy. But it gives me 55 subscriptions for my students. And so what I do is that I share with them. There are many different ways to share links so that they each one have their own subscription. They can make as many comics as they want. Of course, they're only 50, so I have to wipe them out every semester, right? And then start fresh with a new batch. But they also have a free version for students. And so that's why I like this particular tech, because my students can then use the other part of their brain and be a little creative while thinking of a three panel comic on something that's political or something that's in the news. And this is the one activity they really love. So I'm going to incorporate, I used to use a Google map to ask them to share where they have called home. And they like that, but it's a nightmare to grade. And so what I'm going to do is transition that Google Map activity, which students like, although it was hard on my end, is transform that into a Padlet so that I can use the Padlet map and then have each student put their pin right in the Padlet, because then it'll make it easier for me to give them credit for that. So what I'm going to do right here is just pause for maybe 2 minutes to see if anyone has tech that they would like to share here. And again, you can open up the Padlet directly here and then go ahead and click on the pink plus button so you can edit. And then you can just type in the name of the tool that you like. Maybe it's VoiceThread, right? What did I used to use? We used to use, oh my God, I can't even remember it anymore. It was called H5P, and you can use, videos and slides, and so and it's free. There was another one that we used to use that was called Soft Chalk. I don't know if anybody else has ever used Soft Chalk. It's wonderful, but it's also one of those expensive it's an expensive tech. And normally, if your campus can buy it, purchase a subscription, then that's great. I used to use it at City College, and now that's been kind of eliminated from our subscription list. So I have to find something else. Let's see, who had a question or a comment? I heard a little bit of something. All right, Discord. Yeah, so I've heard about this, a Discord app. And so it does sound like it's nice for study groups. Yes, so I don't know if you've realized that some students will start their own study groups. They'll just go into a regular discussion and say, hey, I'm starting this study group. Anybody want to join me? So yes, those are my favorite students. Why? Because they've got grit, right? So they go out and try to find a way to help each other. Others, back in the days when we could go into buildings, they would just say, I'm going to be at the cafeteria between 10 and 11. Please join me if you want to go over vocabulary. So that bit of tech is kind of nice as well. Is there anything out there that maybe you use or have used or heard about and want to explore, like Play Pause It, for example? I'll put that in here, Play Pause It. And so Play Pause It allows for video editing. So for example, you can go into YouTube, find a video that you like, bring it into Play Pause It, into an assignment, and then record over it. So wherever you feel that there should be a pause and a question, you can ask your students question, and then that way they can go ahead and answer those questions and move forward in the video that you've provided. It also allows for captioning. So if you find a YouTube video that does not have the captions, that means the actual captions, not the auto generated captions, then we can't use it. But if you bring it into Play Pause It, then you can use it because you can have Play Pause It caption it for you. So that's another little trick for those whole captioning videos that we absolutely love. I mentioned that I have these, let me see if I can go back somehow here. These videos that I created on how to embed video and all of that. So let me go ahead and share that. YouTube is another pretty good tech. I mean, students can use it, we can use it. I don't know if you've had students create recordings, but it does help. Let me see. I have too much stuff in the way. Can you see me battling? Here we go. So let me go ahead and copy that. We also have Canvas Studio. So Canvas Studio will also let you do a couple of things like caption your videos. I will tell you right now that the main reason why I prefer um, Zoom to record my lectures than Canvas Studio is the, well, one and a half reasons. So the one reason is that in Zoom I can have a background, so I can pretend that I'm at an Ivy League school, or that my living room actually looks like this, right? My study. And Canvas Studio doesn't allow that, so it doesn't have a green screen or a virtual background. Second is that in Zoom, I can touch up my appearance a little bit. Get rid of the bags under my eyes. So, I mean, vanity, right? What, I do not have hair and makeup people around, so sometimes I need the little tech tools to help me with that. All right. So let's go ahead and move on, and definitely feel free to come back and add any tech there, either that you've used or that you would like to explore. All right, so we do have our welcome letter. No, this is the intro video, your instructional video. We have some, how to start to think about putting this together. And again, the recommendations are for 2 to 5 minutes, and the peer replies, if you could all do that. So here's a sample, and we have our fabulous Anne here. She's now on sabbatical, but here she's showing us how you can humanize a course without having to use virtual backgrounds or anything like that. And it's very simple. This is a 3-minute video example that she's given us. And then we have the additional resources here in case you've never used Canvas Studio and you're thinking about using it. So that I hope that you will explore with that. Definitely reach out if this seems cumbersome. It's not meant to be. All of this is meant to be fun. If you can, I mean, I know when we're doing so much work, it's hard to think of things as being fun. But that I hope that you do find yourself enjoying making these videos for your students. And so we've reached the end of what is the completed, and I just want to make sure with the 4 minutes that I have left that I can touch on a couple of things. So your final project does comprise 2 elements now. So it's going to be the welcome module with all of the items that you should have, and then your content, your first week content. If you feel that it's probably a third week content, that's fine. It doesn't have to be first week, right? It could be somewhere around the midterm. So just a content module that best reflects the rhythm and flow of your course. And then clearly within that, some indication of when you're going to have the in-classroom meetings, right? Because this is placed within Canvas. So the language that identifies in classroom meetings, you saw that in our own course, we have the synchronous live meetings in their own, mini module, if you will. So that's something you can mimic if you'd like to have, Wednesday, meet in classroom, right? Just as a reminder, as students are going through the modules, that's definitely welcome. Those 2 modules or 3 modules that you have will be created in the hybrid course practice shell that you got, the BEHI shell, and I think almost everyone's accepted it. So you have to accept that, and the only other person probably in there will be me. But that's because that way when you share the link, I can just jump into your course and then actually see it the way it's going to be without your having to somehow give me a screenshot of it, which is really hard to see. And so that's for the final project. We do have next week, and for anyone who needs it, we're going to keep the course open for an extra week. That's the extension to wrap up anything, especially because next week's the first week of class. So we understand that there's a lot of stuff going on, and we want to be as flexible as possible. Let's see. The other 2 things were on creating those sort of windows. So this is the liquid syllabus I was telling you about. And this is using the syllabus tool that's in our course navigation menu right here. What makes it a liquid syllabus is that I've gone into settings. And although this course hasn't even begun, what I've done is go into where it says course visibility. So normally it looks like this: visibility, course, and then customize. So what I've done is click on customize, and here it gives us an indication of the syllabus and made that public. So that means that, and I'm going to update this, that means that I can go into my syllabus tool. I can grab the syllabus URL, copy that, and then I should be able to send it to y'all. Now, this course is not published yet. So if you can't see it, it's because it's not been published. But technically speaking, once it's published, you should be able to jump right into this course, even though you're not affiliated with the college and not enrolled in this course. And so that helps. The other thing was the ability to create, there are two things, right? In text. So let me go ahead and go in here. So for any of you who are wondering, well, how do I make it so that um, my document pops, right? So what I'm going to show you here is, let's say that I have here, let me include, now I am praying and hoping, Nicole, that way I'm like, let you in on this, that we can somehow get the design tools because they're fabulous, all right? But let me go ahead and type in here, word syllabus. So what we would do is go ahead and highlight that word. We would go into insert, and then we would pick a document. We would upload a document or include a course document if we already have a course document. I should have a course document here somewhere. So let me go ahead and include that. I would click on that, and then it should highlight there. And then I would go ahead and update my syllabus. And so now it's in there, but you'll notice that it's hyperlinked and it's accessible because it doesn't have, .doc, for example, the extension. But if I want that to open in page, what I'll do is I'll click somewhere in the middle. I'll click on link options. And then here, this where it says text, this is where I remove any of the .doc. So that would not be accessible, right? But this is. But the second thing that I do is I click on the second dial that says preview inline, and then I click on expand preview. And let me move stuff around again. And then I click on done and then update. And so what that does, and I wonder if I'm going to remember to go and change. So what that does is that then it should present that Word document or that PDF right within the page as students access the page. So mine is a little bit slow, as you can see here, but that's sort of what it's trying to do there. And then the last thing I think I promised to show, and we're right at 7, so feel free to leave the meeting if you need to. But the last thing I want to show is how to include a wrap. So, so this is what the syllabus would look like. You can see here that what I've really done in the last semester was that I printed to PDF. That same template, I printed to PDF, and so then I've just added it here. But you can add a Word document if you want. All right, so let me see if I can go into a page where I'm not going to mess anything up. Probably not this page. Let me see here. I have to move some stuff around. I know, as you can see here, this is just crazy. If you could actually see my, you would think, oh my goodness, what's going on here? So let's see, let me go into the home page. That's probably the best place for me to go and see if I have that there. So I have a video, it's just super cheese. No, I don't have it there. Let me see. There's got to be a page here somewhere where I did that. Let me see here, Head and Shoulders, maybe here. So you'll notice here that I have my picture right here on the side, and then everything else is wrapped around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that I do that is that I have a cheat sheet. Do not be scared when you see my little cheat sheet here. Ah, right. This is what Monica's brain looks like. So do not be afraid. I'm afraid just looking at it. So what I have is I have all of these snippets that I like to use. Some of them are for hanging indents because I like to have hanging indent for my sources. In this case, it's my image padding. And I'm going to give you the whole snippet there. Copy, and I'll put it in the chat. And so that means that I have to go into the URL to do that, right? So let me see if I can do that in this page. Normally, what we copy is from style to the source. Let me see. So image tells us what kind of code we have. So let me copy that. And I'll go into the course, hit edit. And so for this, I would go into switch to the HTML view of this. And then so here I can see that I have my image, and I've already included that style float left. That's what it is. But say I didn't have that. Let me see if I don't regret doing this. I regret it. Then it would look like this, which, yes, is fine, right? But sometimes we want to make sure that we chunk out our page so it looks a little bit more organized. So what I would do is click on that HTML. I would look for that code that has the IMG. Right between the IMG and the source, SRC, is where I'm going to go ahead and paste that style equals open quote float. This right here. And that should do the trick. Let's see. And so that is what helps make the padding the way it is. And the code I gave you will give your image a little black border around it. I know it's trivial, but I hope that you can find that helpful in case you're trying to set up your pages so that they have an image and that you're chunking out your page the way you want to. All right, so apologies I went over. Do you have any questions, concerns as we're entering week 3 and also entering the first week of classes? No panicky people? No, that's good. You probably have really great breathing techniques, I think. All right, well, thank you very much for joining me today. I'm going to go ahead and try to post this recording. I probably won't get it captioned properly until tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, have a beautiful day, and I'm really enjoying reading all of your content and design. Thank you very much. Good night.